Hi everyone, yasas que kalosirtata to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making the most beautiful butter cookies. I've used this recipe to make Italian butter cookies around Christmas time a few years ago. And recently I made these to put in cookie boxes. I was giving them out as gifts. And I made them a little smaller, circular in shape. I put maraschino cherries in them and dipped them in all sorts of things. And in my Instagram stories, everybody wanted the recipe. So here it is. I'm bringing it to you. Let's get started. So this recipe makes quite a big batch. It makes about 65 to 70 individual cookies. But obviously, if you're sandwiching them together, it's going to make about 35 cookies. It's up to you how you want to serve these. Let's start making the batter. Okay, so in a mixing bowl that's fitted with the paddle attachment, go ahead and add 3 sticks of butter. That's 3/4 of a pound. Make sure that the butter is soft. Next, add 1 cup of granulated sugar, a little pinch of salt, like half a teaspoon, and 3 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. And beat that over high speed until it's nice and fluffy. Always scrape down the sides of the bowl with a spatula so that way anything that's stuck to the bottom or the sides is incorporated evenly. Next, we're going to add 2 eggs that are at room temperature and beat those in as well. In this bowl over here, I have 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. Just mix it all together with a whisk. And just add the flour mixture to the mixer a little bit at a time until it's all incorporated. And just like that, the batter is ready. I have a pastry bag here that's fitted with the star tip attachment. It's an open star. You can get it on Amazon or in a cake decorating or kitchen supply store. I like to put it in a glass so that way it holds it nice and sturdy. And then just put the batter in here. It's not all going to fit, and you never want to overfill these bags. Otherwise, the batter will start, coming out from the back end, and it'll also be hard to handle. Just fill it up halfway, twist it so that way the batter is in there nice and compact. Now you can do this one of 2 ways. Either go ahead and pipe out swirls like that, or you could squeeze the batter out into little star shapes. And each time you squeeze them out, you can just twist the back so that way it stays nice and tight. That way the batter comes out easily. And leave some room in between the cookies because they will rise. You don't want them to get stuck together. And make sure to have like about 3 trays aligned with parchment paper, 3 baking trays. And just keep making these cookies until you run out of batter. Once you're done piping out the cookies, you can put a little maraschino cherry that's already pitted in the center of each cookie. They're usually sold in jars stored in liquid. So definitely drain out the liquid first so that way you don't drip liquid and stain the cookies. But go ahead, press it down into the center. And of course you could leave the cherry out and leave these plain if you prefer. This makes them so beautiful. And you don't have to put it on all of the cookies. If you're going to use these to make sandwich cookies out of them, like if you're going to sandwich them together with chocolate or jam, you could just put a cherry on half of them and leave the other half plain so they could be the backside of the cookie. So keep in mind that as soon as you make the batter, you're going to want to make these cookies right away because as the batter sits, it does stiffen up a little bit more and it becomes harder, and it becomes harder on your hands to pipe it out of the bag. The tighter you keep the bag, the easier it is going to be to pipe these cookies out. If you happen to have a cookie press, I know sometimes people get them as gifts and they just sit around in their pantry or in their cabinet and they never come out. This is the perfect time to take it out. It's going to make beautiful different shapes and beautiful decorative cookies. So you can use this recipe to make cookies using your cookie press. If not, you do what I'm doing. I always have icing bags on hand and star tips, so I always use a tip. I've never once used a cookie press, although I might do that one time if I want to get a little fancy. But they're super simple to make. Once you pipe out the cookies, make sure that your oven is already preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and bake these 2 trays at a time. They're going to take about 15 minutes. Now subsequent trays, like this made 4 trays, so the second batch that's going to go in the oven might take a little bit longer just because we open and close the oven so much. You are going to want to rotate the pans in between cooking so the top tray doesn't brown too fast and then the bottom tray stays pale and things like that, just so that way it cooks evenly. As soon as they come out of the oven, let them sit at room temperature for about 10 minutes so that way they cool completely. They're done baking once they're golden around the edges. You don't want them to be golden brown, the whole cookie. You want these to have that beautiful pale color with the golden edges. They just look so pretty that way. Once they cool down, or while they're baking actually, you can prepare your toppings and fillings. Now, I'm using white chocolate. I just went ahead and I melted some white chocolate in one bowl, and then I also melted some semi-sweet chocolate, in another bowl. You can definitely use jam as well, your favorite jam. Apricot jam and raspberry jam are the most popular, and that's used to fill these. Speaking of the jam, I put maraschino cherries on the center of each cookie, but if you don't like cherries, you can definitely put a little dollop of jam in the center. You can do that or leave them plain. It's up to you. But get all your toppings ready. So like I said, I have the white chocolate, the semi-sweet chocolate. I also have some sprinkles, rainbow sprinkles and chocolate sprinkles, some sliced almonds, but you can definitely use sweetened coconut for this as well. It all works and it's just gonna be beautiful. And once your cookies are done cooling completely, one side of them you can dollop some chocolate in the center. I like to do semi-sweet chocolate, but you can do white, or you can do some jam in the center and then sandwich it with a top cookie. I like to use the bottom that maybe doesn't have the cherry on it, and then the top, the one with the cherry on it. Sandwich them together and let them cool completely. If you have room in your freezer, you can pop them in there for about 10 minutes. It'll help them firm up and the chocolate will solidify, so that way when you go to dip them, you don't even have to dip them. They're so beautiful as is, but you can go ahead and then dip these in white chocolate. I dipped mine in some in white chocolate, and then once they were dipped in white chocolate, I rolled them in some sprinkles. I did some with almonds. I did the same thing with the cookies that I dipped in the semi-sweet chocolate. I left some plain just with that chocolate on top. Some of them I rolled in the sliced almonds. Some of them I rolled in the chocolate sprinkles and the rainbow sprinkles. They look so beautiful. You're going to want to put these back once you're done decorating them on a baking tray. The same baking tray and parchment paper, just reuse that. You can set these at room temperature. It's just going to take a little bit longer for the chocolate to harden on the cookies. Or like I said, if you have space, you can put these in your freezer for about 10 minutes and then they'll harden and they will be ready to be served with some nice hot coffee. These stay fresh for a really long time. My favorite place to store these is in the freezer, believe it or not, because in the pantry or at room temperature, the chocolate does tend to melt a little bit, and then as they're stacked together, they just get kind of dirty looking. So the freezer keeps them nice and fresh for up to a month. Just take them out and let them come to room temperature before you serve them. These are great for giving out as gifts, for bringing it as a hostess gift to someone's house, putting them in cookie holiday boxes, maybe giving them as favors for bridal showers or birthday parties. They are so good. Time for the taste test. And some of them I didn't even sandwich. I left them plain and I just dipped them in chocolate. These are the best. We used this recipe at the bakery for 10 years and everyone loved it. They're so buttery and crisp and tender, and they just go well with everything. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. The exact measurements can be printed out on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Let me know what you think. If you make these, make sure you share pictures with me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to learn how to make the Italian rainbow cookies that are really popular in New York bakeries, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.